So today we'll be covering a couple of topics relating to the digital boardroom. First of all, we'll give you guys, especially those that are new towards the digital boardroom concept, an overview of what the digital boardroom is about, as well as we'll do a quick demo to kind of give you guys some insights in terms of how the digital boardroom could be utilized today. And then finally, we'll take a look at some of the give you some insights in terms of the short-term roadmap that's going to be coming as part of the digital boardroom in terms of new features and capabilities. So without further ado, just a quick note, as usual, any of the items that are considered roadmap are indeed forward-looking statements. So as you guys know, this is the usual SAP disclaimer that timelines could potentially change here in terms of what we discuss. Now, to start off, the SAP Digital Boardroom is a next-generation digital solution which helps to contextualize the boardroom experience across people, places, and devices in a real-time enterprise experience. It is built on SAP Cloud for Analytics, so it is a cloud-based solution. And so the SAP Digital Boardroom leverages your business data via data sources such as connectivity to SAP HANA, SAP ECC, universes, a variety of different data sources. And the idea is to provide a consolidated source of truth about a company's most important business metrics from a monitoring standpoint, from a simulation, and driving change in your business. Now, the digital boardroom itself concept is based upon, three foundation concepts, and we'll go into each of the different categories as we go along this presentation, but it's really about providing total transparency and insight. It is really about focus on giving data-driven insights based upon real-time data, and this is going to be very key from a data access perspective. And finally, it's about simplification. Now, the digital boardroom from a transparency perspective is about providing a complete picture of the company's situation in real time. This is really about pulling together a 360-degree perspective directly from for example, your operational data across different lines of business. Now, you can utilize the SAP Digital Boardroom to visualize insights, whether this is in a common reporting environment to monitor historical, actuals, as well as forecast data. And finally, one of the key driving points here is really about aligning executive decisions. It's really about providing that single consolidated truth across the different business areas. And you'll see an example of that from a demo perspective very shortly. Now, the SAP Digital Boardroom, as I mentioned before, which is based off Cloud for Analytics, so this is a software as a service solution. It does leverage various different data connectivity options. So in terms of the data connectivity options, we can connect to the SAP backend sources like SAP HANA. So this is basically our real-time data connectivity. And we also do have some upcoming plans to further integrate and connect to other SAP backends such as SAP BW as well as SAP S4HANA later this year. The other option is to acquire data from an on-premise source. So today we are able to acquire data from, for example, as I mentioned, your universe data, SAP ECC data, personal flat files, as well as cloud sources like Salesforce, and as well as connectivity to HANA Cloud Platform as a DBaaS. And as I mentioned, this is really about consolidating the source of the truth across the different business areas. And definitely, we'll have a webinar on this in terms of a deep dive on data connectivity options. Now, what we are going to drill down a bit further today is the overall digital boardroom concept. So what you see here is kind of like contextually how the content is consumed from a three-screen support perspective, and we'll cover some of the simple analytic, some of the basic analytical functionality that is available in the Digital Boardroom via SAP Cloud for Analytics. The Digital Boardroom itself is optimized for presentation on a three-screen display concept. Now, it is also possible to support presentation on a single screen display. So, for example, if you want to be able to show this on a standard laptop demo, which I'm doing today, you can do so. And this is especially in scenarios where access to three screens is simply not possible from a customer perspective. We'll also talk a little bit about a concept called an agenda builder. So this is a unique feature that's within Cloud for Analytics, and certainly I think from a customer and partner perspective, you'd be kind of curious to know how exactly is this digital boardroom content being pulled together into a three-screen concept, and we'll take a look at the agenda builder, which basically allows you to do this very structured content layout style. Sure. So what you can see here is a three-screen concept, which is broken down into an overview screen, and as well as the main screen, which is the center, as well as the context screen. So in a quick nutshell summary is that the main screen here in the center is a center where basically the majority of the presentation content really happens. The context screen is on my right here, is typically used to provide additional supporting analytics to the presented content in the main screen. And we have on our left here, which is the overview screen, which is used to provide a summary or an introduction overview to the presented content on the main screen. So we'll see this more specifically in an actual demo, because so that it's a little bit easier to kind of see how that might look from a navigation perspective. Now, one of the compelling experiences from the SAP with the Digital Boardroom is the three-screen touch interaction concept. This is really about providing a natural way to consume the interactive data visualizations through touch, and it's really about giving you access to your live business data at your fingertips. Now, I'm just going to pull up a quick slide here, and this is something that we'll definitely, we actually have this captured as part of our external PAM, but you can see here, a lot of people have often asked, what is the type of hardware configuration that's currently supported today if I do want to consider looking at and trying out the three-screen concept. So officially today, we do support specifically for the three-screen concept. We do support the Samsung Touch hardware. As you can see that we do have listed some very specific models that which Samsung is supported. But we do also support some smaller screen sizes. So I do believe that Samsung manufactures their touch screens starting at the 40-inch. So you don't necessarily have to go to its maximum availability, which is the 75-inch. There are some specific client-side requirements. You do need a Chrome browser. So currently today, SAP Cloud for Analytics supports Chrome. There is no support yet for other browser types such as Internet Explorer, but that is something that we're looking at from a roadmap perspective that's coming later towards the end of the year. There are some specific hardware requirements that you would need to consider in terms of your graphics processing unit or your GPU. Today we do support using AMD Fire Pro, and the specific model number is listed here, and this is to help drive the three-screen interaction concept as well as a touch experience from a single desktop experience. Now, there is some flexibilities that we're looking at within development because obviously if you think back today, not all these types of hardwares may be necessarily accessible to you depending upon which geographical region you happen to be based off. So for example, I do know that, for example, in Latin America, Samsung doesn't necessarily sell into that geographical region. So we are looking at different alternative options, and I would recommend that definitely keep your tabs in terms of our external PAM that we're going to be releasing pretty soon, which will document and will definitely start to increase the number of different hardware configuration that you can possibly support with the SAP Digital Boardroom, starting with, for example, increasing our overall support for the different GPUs, expanding into other vendors such as NVIDIA-based GPUs as an example. So this is just a quick overview from the hardware perspective. Now, typically, coming back to the three-screen context, when you're presenting, the context of the meeting that you usually have is usually an interactive conversation, right? It's not about, a person that's just speaking to you, but, your audience is going to ask questions. It's likely that you'll get ad hoc questions, for example, why is the forecast revenue last quarter down by 10% compared to the same quarter from last year? Right? That's a typical kind of ad hoc question that comes up on the fly. And this is where the SAP Digital Boardroom can leverage, and it does, the underlying analytic capabilities of what Cloud for Analytics has to offer today. So for example, you can provide capabilities such as data exploration on top of your real-time data. You can see here that when you do click, you can enter into a different view here where you can actually do some simple slice and dice ad hoc data exploration. And this means that you can drill into your data further on demand, be able to play around with that data in real time, and especially what's important is to be able to uncover new data insights on the fly within your digital presentation. And this is pretty big today, a very big change from the typical static presentations that people might have when they're having an actual meeting. Now we'll take a look at. We mentioned a little bit earlier about the agenda builder. So what we want to look about or focus on is to take a look at the creation of the SAP Digital Boardroom. Now, specifically, the way of how you pull together the content for the boardroom needs to be simple. It needs to be easy to use and to be able to help reduce the overall boardroom meeting preparation time and effort. So you will see within our Cloud for Analytics product is a feature called the Agenda Builder, and this allows you to create an interactive agenda. And what I'll show you very quickly later on is to see how easy it is to really link specific topics within agenda to the specific three screens. So if you remember, we have the overview, we have the exploration, as well as the context screens, and you can very quickly view your digital boardroom creation using as well as the preview capability. So what we'll do is, before we go into roadmap, let's actually take a look at an actual demo. So I'm going to do a quick switch here. All right. So what we're going to show you today is is one of the digital boardroom demos that we've created. Actually, from a customer perspective, you guys can get access to this today. It's available on our SAP demo store. So I encourage you guys to go check it out, and definitely we also have some interesting collaterals that you guys can try out to see how this works. So what we'll do today is talk about human capital management. So imagine we have a scenario where, let's say, our new global sales VP for the best run company has just recently joined the company, and to ensure that our global sales VP has a very good productive start, the sales management team would like to be able to prepare a presentation to give our sales VP an overview of the global sales team. So, so from a human resources perspective, what we see here is a quick capture of the overall global sales organization. So we're looking at it from a couple of different metrics. We have the overall headcount analysis, and you can see here that within our analytics that we definitely have locations where our biggest sales office happens to be in Sydney, Beijing, as well as Paris. And so this is something that perhaps maybe our sales VP might want to consider first in terms of taking a look at what's happening within the company. From the diversity analysis perspective, we can see that what's very interestingly is the male and female equality, and the female employee ratio is kind of low in general. We can see that as we look at the metrics from a manager's perspective, we can see that Laurent in general is generally the biggest team that's available within the sales field, and definitely there would be a need to improve on the diversity of this team in order to meet the diversity KPIs that defined for the company itself. And from a performance analysis perspective, we can take a look at the highest performer growth by the different age groups that we see here. And from the historical trend over the last couple of years, we can see that the age group of 41 to 50, as well as 51 to 60, generally has been our top talent group. So to align with our overall company strategy, we might discuss about spending resources and effort to help develop the young talents. As you can see from 2014 and 15, we already see a growth in the overall young age group. We also can take a look at the voluntary termination. We can see that within the geo chart, we can see the visualized overall turnover costs that's associated, as well as the number of voluntary terminations. And what you can see here that's a little bit interesting here is the fact that Asia itself is currently showing both the highest voluntary terminations as well as the highest turnover costs. So this is something that we might want to look at. So this is one of the ways of how you can kind of get an overview of what's happening from an overall company perspective. Now, as we start to kind of drill down in terms of what's happening within the sales organization, we might want to take a look specifically at the number of voluntary turnover issues. So we can see here that for one of our sales managers, Laurent, that we can see that it's got a fairly high voluntary termination, and one of the specific reasons is on the compensation front. And this is something that maybe our global sales SVP might want to bring that up. You can also see here, to kind of back that up, is on a chart on the right, is really the pay by performance by the manager. And again, if you take a look at Laurent, what's very interesting is that we've got at least 17 or so employees that have significantly exceeded the expectations. But what's obviously of a big concern is that they're being paid below the market average, which really correlates to the initial chart that we showed, where the compensation is an issue from the previous analysis. Now, what's very interesting is you can also drill down into your data, as I kind of mentioned earlier, and we can see here that the millennial generation, as well as our experienced employees, by experience I mean this is the 41 to 50 group, are the top two groups that are leaving the company. Our data and insights show today that the young talents who have left are the ones that are underperforming, which is not a big deal. But what's more specific concerning are those that are in that 41 to 50 group, where you can see here is that they're really pretty high performers here. And again, this is the main cause of concern here is really the overall compensation perspective. Now you can see that here that from the overall capabilities perspective is that the overall charts and capabilities from a digital boardroom perspective is touch interactive, and so you can definitely do that slice and dice, be able to filter and be able to look at the data from different perspectives, and certainly this is one of the key ways or key value propositions of the digital boardroom, which is really getting live access to the granular data, granular level of data, which helps us dig out information and be able to answer quickly questions on the fly. Now, last but not least, we can also leverage Cloud for Analytics planning capabilities. So to assist in the future planning and to justify the financial impact by trying to lower the voluntary terminations, I want to be able to run a what-if analysis. And you can see that from this bar chart here, we have what shows basically the turnover cost by the actual versus the planning scenario. The table also shows that the number of terminated employees. And so one thing that we can do here to kind of do that type of simulation, that what-if scenario, is to, for example, if you want to be able to lower the overall number of projected terminated employees from a plan perspective, and you can see that the overall projected turnover cost does indeed lower from, I think it was 2 million to 1 million. So this is something that is really key here from an overall capability from a digital boardroom. Now, what we're going to do here is to quickly take a look at the digital boardroom concept itself. So you can see here within Cloud for Analytics, I've gone in, I've actually switched perspectives directly into the design time view. And you can see here what I've done is using Cloud for Analytics, I've actually built a digital boardroom story that's got 3 specific pages. Now I happen to be using this within the boardroom itself. Now you can see here that in terms of pulling together the content, it's actually pretty simple here. So I'm going to click on this concept called the agenda builder, and actually just realized that what I really want to do is to be able to open it from a design perspective. So you might want to edit agendas. So you can see here with the agenda builder functionality, it's very easy to be able to quickly customize your digital boardroom presentation. So you can look here at one of our agenda items here. I believe it was the HCM Successfactors demo that I just quickly showed. What we did is we actually took one of the stories that is within Cloud for Analytics, and what we did is for each of the different screens, you have the overview screen, you have the middle, which is the content screen, and the right, which is the context screen. What I did was basically assign the different story pages of that story to the different 3-screen setup. So it's really that simple here in terms of being able to quickly pull together an agenda for a digital boardroom presentation. I'm just going to switch back to the presentation here. So let's take a look at, we've taken a look at some of the capabilities of the product from a quick demo perspective. What I like to kind of go into is some of the planned innovations of what we want to bring to the digital boardroom and really push the boundaries of the overall digital experience. Now, one of the key typical scenarios that during the presentation that I just talked about not long ago was that, what if analysis scenario. So this is about being able to, for example, take a look at, let's say, your key value drivers of your business and be able to visualize their relationship and be able to simulate changes based upon that. So we are introducing a concept called a value driver tree. This is a planned innovation which is coming around the mid-May time frame. So this will be a unique concept. The value driver tree is basically used to help run the impact of simulation across the different business areas. You should be able to see the affected outcome and as well as the key driving influences which help to drive decision-making to financials and operations of your company. So, for example, a typical use case would be, what is the impact of a specific automotive line manufacturing TCO on the overall company financials? This is something that, from a cloud for analytics perspective, you can quickly build the value driver tree concept and be able to run those simulations in real time within the digital boardroom. No longer do you have to do all this manually with your Excel data. Now, another concept which is important is and what our customers often give us feedback on is that a typical meeting experience is never held in one location, right? So if you think about how meetings are run today, it's very much virtual, right? So maybe some of your business leaders, such as your CIO or CFO, may be in a different country and traveling and would like to be able to participate as part of the meeting. It's just simply the way of how businesses are running today. And this is what excites us in terms of some of the feature innovations of what we're planning to deliver. So one of the key aspects, and I'll show a quick video of some of the feature innovations that is planned. So we have a quick mock-up of some of our collaboration as well as remote interaction support capabilities that we want to bring into the digital boardroom. So you can see here on the top left is our main boardroom presentation, and we have two specific attendees. We have Matt and Shelby, or Martin and Shelby, and these are basically our remote audience. One is connecting to the presentation through their desktop, and the other possible use case is from, let's say, from a mobile device perspective. You can see here that they are connecting, and you can see that now obviously here you can see there's a slight delay here to kind of simulate the fact that these are two remote participants that are part of the digital boardroom. So as the main presenter is going through the context of the presentation, the remote viewers, both Martin as well as Shelby, would be able to see the same types of visualizations as well as interactions of what's being presented. Now, what's very important here, or what's interesting, is we want to make this remote experience for the audience interactive. So, we are bringing capabilities of annotation. So this is basically on-the-fly annotation where you can, where as a remote participant and even as the presenter could add annotative capabilities. So you can see here, Martin is decided they want to be able to highlight a specific number for further explanation, and to ask the main presenter, to help explain this. And so you can see here that this is something that Martin has added, and the annotations will actually show up across specifically to the entire audience themselves. Now, in return, as the main presenter and myself, I can also do annotations to help explain the context, or to consider putting some notes here in terms of let's take a look at just from a further action standpoint. So you can see here that what we're doing is that we are bringing both the screen sharing capabilities as the first step for this remote collaboration, as well as the annotative capabilities. And this is something that we're working on for towards the end of Q2, and potentially a little bit of spillover into Q3. So this is definitely a capability that's coming very shortly from a roadmap perspective. Last but not least, and this is to kind of close off in terms of what's coming in terms of our near-term roadmap. Often we get asked this question is really about the best practices of how can we accelerate time to value to our customers. So whether this is doing proof of concepts, or just simply getting up and running with Cloud for Analytics. So one of the things that we are planning to work on, and more towards the latter half of this year, is the ability to support creation of predefined content. Now, the predefined content must be configurable, right? So this is something that from a customer, if you want to be able to deploy and be able to configure the predefined content to utilize your own data sets, this is kind of like one of the key value propositions that we really want to be able to deliver as part of Cloud for Analytics. So being able to leverage predefined best practices of predefined content, whether this is against S/4HANA data or basically BW or HANA, we have different ways of how we want to envision bringing predefined content to our customers to enable them to get started very quickly on the enablement front and up and running with Cloud for Analytics. Last but not least, Cloud for Analytics is part of the overall SAP, the SAP Digital Boardroom is part of the overall SAP Cloud for Analytics suite. So this is really about, to reiterate, about providing, transparent visibility, organizational alignment, and insight from the top floor to the shop floor. And this is really as well as focus on building alignment across different lines of business like finance, logistics, HR, sales, and operations. So moving from the executive type of meeting or the boardroom to a shop floor where, for example, you may want to take a look at what's changing in real time in terms of what's happening, let's say on your manufacturing floor process, is the vision that we want to be able to also cover with the SAP Digital Boardroom. Some last but not least is some handy reference links that you might want to take a look at. So our product management team from our regional implementation group has come up with a digital implementation checklist. So this is currently posted on SCN. So this is a pretty good read. I won't show it here, but basically it's really about thinking about this end-to-end in terms of what are the different considerations that you would need to think about in terms of a successful project implementation from a customer perspective. So it looks at it from the best practice considerations of building your content. It takes a looks at it from the data access perspective. So this is really about an implementation checklist end-to-end in terms of the different touch points that a customer or partner would need to think about when they're doing the implementation of the digital boardroom. We do have our standard Cloud for Analytics documentation, which you can see here on this link. And again, this is kind of our one-stop shop for finding all the key important functional capabilities, the PAM, and as well as some of the overall user functionalities that's being captured. We also have some online tutorials to help customers quickly get started. So I definitely encourage you guys to have a good look at this link here. Okay, finally, in terms of contact information, I do realize that we do have a lot of customers here that have joined, and they're definitely coming from different regions. So, we are a global group from a product management team perspective. We do have some specific contacts here from the EMEA side of things, Holger Handel as well as Sridhar, as well as myself from the more North American perspective. And actually, I really should add here Matt Lloyd, so I'll probably update my slide here from product management perspective. Okay, so this kind of concludes the digital boardroom presentation, and what I'd like to do is to spend some time on the Q&A. So,
is there a separate roadmap for digital boardroom?
So obviously today's presentation is more of a deep dive, specifically focused on the SAP Digital Boardroom. But in general, our roadmaps cover multiple aspects. The Digital Boardroom, Cloud for Analytics, from a general perspective, including the BI capabilities, planning, and soon that's coming is our predictive capabilities. So the answer is that it is one general roadmap. You can find this easily on SCN. So the data comes from SAP and non-SAP sources. So the question is, yes, that is the plan. Today there is a much more heavier focus on the connectivity to SAP sources. So
is there a public demo we can access?
Yes. So today, and I guess I can put you we can probably consolidate this into the JAM page. But certainly for customers that are interested in doing, let's say, a proof of concept or interested in a proof of concept system for the SAP Digital Boardroom, we can direct you to the right links in terms of where you can find this information. We also do have an SAP demo store, and I definitely will also post this as part of the JAM. But the SAP demo store basically has some included demo scripts, which customers can actually take a look at and actually try it out from their own local desktop. So we'll definitely take a lot of these feedback and we'll actually put it into this JAM group so that the information doesn't get lost. I guess to answer your question, there are this is just a quick snapshot of some of the different data sources that we can connect to today. Basically, we do connect to various different sources today, so we can connect to the business objects universes. As you noticed, there is a heavier concentration on SAP, so BPC, BW, as well as HANA. We do also provide connectivity to personal data sources such as your CSV and XLS. From a cloud source perspective, we also can connect to Salesforce, Google Drive, as well as the HANA Cloud Platform as a DBaaS. So these are the options today, and I didn't really want to make this as a data connectivity presentation, but this is kind of a quick snapshot of what would be possible today from a connectivity standpoint. And certainly we're looking at increasing the breadth of data connectivity. So when you think about third party, this goes beyond the universe support. So this would also include plans that we have on the upcoming roadmap in terms of just general JDBC driver support as an example to help open up the third party data access.
Do you show the Successfactor data in a demo? Is that connectivity available?
Yes. Actually, it's coming in the next couple weeks. So short answer is yes, that is definitely, yeah.
Matt has responded that you will hear more about this at Sapphire.
Yeah.
So similar time frame.
Yeah. So our plans is to be able to connect to success factors in terms of your employee central data.
where can we find the predefined content bundled with the digital boardroom that you spoke of, Eric?
Right. So Dehindra, that is a planned requirement. It's not there yet. This is something that we're working on for the latter half of this year, H2, in terms of providing predefined content for data sources like S4. So that is on our roadmap.
How about big data, Hadoop?
Yeah, so that is on the roadmap in terms of our Hadoop plans. There's going to be some exciting topics that we'll be covering, especially on the acquisition front and how Hadoop would be able to play a role at that. So, I guess to probably give you guys a heads up. So Paul Eklund, definitely, he's the overall product management lead for data access. And for my area, I specialize on the topic of SAP integration. So I am working in tandem with Paul on the area of data access, more specifically on the topic of SAP sources in general, both cloud and on-premise.